Good morning, everybody. It's been a while since I put up a video. I think it's been I don't know, a couple of days. So again, with the working on the F9, F8 Grumman Cougar, Grumman Cougar. This is the image I'm more or less working with. There's also basically the same image, but with the landing gear extended. So at this point, I'm not really sure if I'm going to detail the landing gear or just create it in flying composition in flight. But with and as in this image, the flaps are partially extended. The dive brakes are down, and so on. But the gear is up. Canopy open, but gear is still up. It looks like probably this is the image just prior to the other image that I have. It's same aircraft, same livery, same squadron, essentially. But I think in the next image, the gear is extended. And in fact, on this aircraft, like with the P-51 Mustang, for instance, the gear doors, one door is attached to the main wheel and the other door is attached to the fuselage. And with this aircraft, when the gear is extended, obviously the fuselage door swings down, the gear extends, and then the fuselage door closes again. And with the other image, all of the doors are extended. So I think that next image with the gear down, and I pull it up, but I don't seem to have it on the same hard drive for some reason. Don't ask me why. So the main doors, the fuselage doors, are still extended in the other image. They have not yet retracted. So I think if I build a gear down version, it will be with the gear down, but with the fuselage doors closed, as they would be on touchdown, on landing. I haven't done the research. I don't know if once the aircraft is parked and the engine shut down, I don't know if that door then falls down like the one on the like the doors do on the Mustang and on the F-86 Sabre. Once the hydraulics are shut off, those doors eventually fall back down. They droop down to the extended position. Anyway, I'm talking a lot, not really saying much. This is the configuration I think we're after, either with gear up or gear down. And this is the current status of our build. So I've got it framed. I've got it the stringers attached, and I'm test fitting a sleeve for inside of the air intake. So it's just cardstock cut and rolled, inserted, and then unrolled within the cavity. And this does a couple of things. It rounds out the sides. I don't know if you can see that. I'm not sure what the image looks like here. Let me see if I can pull it up. Right, so it kind of rounds out the sides. If I use the balsa on the inside sides of the box, of the intake box, it had been hard edged, and I didn't want that. Those edges are rounded for airflow reasons. Anyway, we're just test fitting the cardstock. I think that's what we're going to go with. I'm debating whether to paint it silver or leave it white. I think I'll leave it white. Also, you can see that I've added nose weight just in case. We're going to add the nose gear. We don't want a tail sitter. In other words, when you build a model, you put nose gear on it, but you don't weight the nose. We end up with more weight potentially behind the center of gravity, and then the airplane won't sit properly. It'll just sit on its heel. I don't want that. So nose weight, always added when there's a nose gear aircraft. And what I did here was, I don't know if you can see that, there's a steel washer attached to the number 2 bulkhead there, and then ceramic magnets are then just attached. I've got 5 ceramic magnets. I think that's going to add sufficient weight to the nose. It should. If not, what I can do is when I cut off the bay for the nose gear, obviously we need the nose weight if we're adding landing gear, so I can cut open the landing gear bay, which goes in this third cell right here, and from there I can drop in a magnet and just let it fall to the to the other magnets there, it'll stick and stay. So that's how I do typically do a nose weight. It's just one steel washer and then however many magnets it'll take. And I try to position that in an area where I can reach it after the fact. So if not through the landing gear bay, I can reach it through the cockpit opening. One way or another, I can add another magnet to that during construction to make sure that I have enough weight. Too much weight's not a problem. I mean, if there's too much weight, okay, the airplane's going to be nose heavy, but it's not flying. It just needs the weight to sit properly on its gear. So too much weight's not a problem, but if insufficient weight is a problem, we don't want that. Anyway, there we have our current status of the build. We have a fuselage completely roped in. There will be a ton of shaping yet to be done here. Obviously, we're going to have to use a ton of filler back here. This profile is not correct. This is much more of a fillet here, and also the trailing edge, the wing trailing edge, which this is a component of. You could either call that a fuselage, a fuselage feature, or a wing feature. It's actually part of the wing. It's called out on the model as trailing edge area, so that's what we're going to call it. But a lot of filler is going to have to be used, especially on the bottom edge of this, to smooth out those angles. This is really, on the actual aircraft, this is really flowing. This whole area back here is not hard-edged at all, really. So we'll be adding a lot of filler back there, and that's why I want to make sure I have plenty of weight up front and that I can still add more if need be, even after this is sealed and infilled. I want to be able to, once I can determine what that tail weight is going to be, I want to be able to add more magnets to the nose, more weight. Okay, so this is current status. I'm looking at landing gear. I have a few pieces and parts here. Sort of mocking up something. This is not final. This is just to take a look at what our gear might be. I have the wheels here. These are tail wheels from Dubro, the rubber wheels. Anytime a model can potentially get heavy, I like to use rubber wheels. I can use plastic, and we can modify these or do something with resin. But I like to, like I said, I don't like to reinvent the wheel, as they say, and just use something that's available from the market. So it'll either be those plastic or similar plastic to those, or those rubber wheels. I do still, if I model the landing gear, I'm going to cut open the landing gear bays and probably build boxes that will fit right into the fuselage to house the landing gear. It may be retractable landing gear. It depends on how that looks. Once I cut these open and see how much room I have, if there's enough room to retract the landing gear with either the thicker, preferable rubber wheels, these are thick, or these thinner plastic wheels, if that's what it takes to fit inside of the fuselage, then I'll use the plastic wheel. Actually, these would go it's this way, but it's that way. Oh, well, we'll work that out. But we need to make sure they'd fit, and then what I would do is just build a box that would just drop right in there. That would be, already set up with the retracting gear, and that would stand for both the nose and the mains. So I'm still thinking about that. If that looks plausible, then we will do retractable landing gear on the airplane, just because I like a challenge. I like to exercise my freedom of speech with as many swear words as I can create during the process of any build. So it's dedicated to that aspect of the build, to the profanity. And I'm rambling. So again, we're going to outfit the cockpit. We might, in fact, model it with the gear down or with retractable landing gear, and we might not. We might just make it a gear up version in flight, actually. So work is progressing on the model. It's the engineering of it is kind of funky. It was not fun to build the tail this way. It takes away my opportunity to handle the alignment when it's part of these. If you can tell, these ribs here include this portion. So these ribs were fragile, especially these final ones, extremely fragile. And you know, as I say, it took away from me the ability to do the alignment. So there's going to have to be, the alignment is not what I would have done and not how I would have it. So and I can do some adjustment through sanding and as part of the infill process. I can do some cutting and basically slice these bulkheads away. At this point, I'm still debating. Slice them off and then reposition the tail and then reattach these using stiffeners. Just glue these stiffeners at each point where I cut through, and reattach the tail that way, and then do the infill. So I'm still, again, that's another bit of process here that I may do. I may yet go ahead and do that. Slice that tail off, reposition it the way I like it, and then reattach it using the stiffeners to hold it in place in the new alignment. So if I do that, I'll definitely record or document it with the camera. Show you how we're going to do that. I'm just kind of spitballing here. This is, you guys are familiar with my deal now. We do updates, and then I talk about, the kind of the next phase. And then often when I talk about what I'm going to do next, it ends up not being what I do next. But again, talking it through and thinking it through at each phase helps me come to a good decision. It helps me to plan or to figure out exactly whether something I'm thinking of doing might work or might not. So that's what I'm doing here, spitballing. This is a big airplane. You can tell. I mean, this is a big model. This is going to be a big airplane once the wings are on there and everything. It's big. It's bigger than I like. I prefer the 1/20th range, maybe 1/16th on a small airplane. But mostly I like 1/20th, 1/24th, something like that. Anything that's over 132, but just not quite this scale. The infill on this is going to take a lot of wood, and that's one of the reasons I'm going to start focusing more on smaller models. The difficulty in getting good quality balsa sheet material, the expense of it, and so on, and the time. This is going to be a time sucker in filling this. And I'm okay with it. I'm going to complete the model. I just would prefer a little bit less size, less material being used. But here we are. We're gonna roll it out. We're gonna do the best we can. Just because that's the kind of Canadian I am. See you later.